Hello there, and welcome. The screen is dark for a reason. There is nothing to see here, not yet. There is only the sound of my voice, and the quiet space you have found for yourself. Before we begin our journey tonight, I want you to settle in. Let your shoulders fall, unclench your jaw. Feel the weight of the day begin to lift, ever so slightly. You are not you anymore, not for tonight. You are leaving your own time, your own worries behind. You are becoming someone else, somewhere else. Your only job is to follow along, to feel what they feel, to see what they see. Though, if we're being honest, you probably won't make it through this day. And that's perfectly all right. If you find this journey restful, and you'd like to join us for more, perhaps consider subscribing to Sleep with Stories. It costs you nothing, and it lets us know we're helping. And if you feel so inclined, leave a comment with where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a quiet comfort to know where our fellow travelers are settling down for the night. Now, close your eyes, if you haven't already. Take a slow breath in and a long breath out. Let the world outside this moment fade away. Let's ease into tonight's journey. The low hum fades slightly, replaced by the sound of a very faint, distant wind and the soft rustle of coarse fabric. The first thing you are aware of is the cold. Not a biting, aggressive cold, but a deep, persistent chill that has seeped through the wool of your tunic and into your bones. It lives in the stone floor beneath your thin mattress and radiates from the plaster walls of your small room. It is the kind of cold that belongs only to the deepest hour of the night, the one just before the promise of dawn. Outside, the city of Rome is silent, or as silent as a city of 1,000,000 souls ever gets. The boisterous shouts from the tavern on the corner have long since faded. The endless clatter of daytime crowds is just a memory. There is only the immense, sleeping weight of it all. A rooster crows somewhere in the dense warrant of your insula, your apartment block. It's a ragged, defiant sound. Your alarm clock is a rooster with an inflated sense of importance. And that's your cue to begin a workday that would make a modern HR department weep. You don't move, not yet. You just lie there, listening. You can hear the slow, heavy breathing of your wife, Gaia, beside you. In the other room, a small cough from your son. These are the anchors of your world. You swing your legs off the low bed, your feet finding the frigid stone floor. The shock is a familiar one, a daily baptism into wakefulness. You don't light a lamp. You know the layout of these two small rooms by heart, a map etched into your mind by years of stumbling through them in the dark. You pull on a thicker, heavier tunic, the coarse wool a welcome defense against the chill. As you move, the smell of the room is one of close quarters and humanity, sleep, sweat, and the faint, lingering scent of the lentil stew you ate for dinner. Down a flight of crumbling stone stairs, you emerge into the street. The air here is different. It's damp, carrying the faint, swampy smell of the nearby Tiber River, mixed with the ever-present Roman aromas of wood smoke, baking bread, and sanitation that is, let's say, a work in progress. The street is narrow, a canyon carved between towering, tenement-style buildings that lean against each other for support, like old friends after too much wine. Above, a sliver of pre-dawn sky is just beginning to soften from inky black to a deep, bruised purple. A few lonely stars still cling to the darkness. Your bakery, your bistronomies, not far, just a 2-minute walk. But in this quiet, every footstep echoes. You pass a shuttered butcher's stall, a sleeping dog that raises its head and watches you pass with one lazy eye, and a small shrine to the Lares, the household gods, tucked into an alcove in a wall. Someone has left a small garland of winter herbs there. Your walk is solitary, but you know that in a few hours, this very street will be a chaotic river of people, senators in their clean togas on their way to the forum, slaves hauling water amphorae, merchants shouting about their wares, children chasing stray dogs. It will be the city's first, and arguably worst, traffic jam. But for now, it's all yours. You reach the heavy wooden door of your shop. The key is iron, large and cold in your hand. It turns in the lock with a loud, grating groan that seems to violate the morning's peace. You slip inside, and the air changes again. This is your world. It smells of flour, a fine, powdery scent that coats every surface. It smells of yeast, a sweet and sour tang of life. And it smells of yesterday's labor of charcoal, warm stone, and the ghosts of 1,000 baked loaves. Being a baker in Rome is a position of strange privilege and immense responsibility. You feed the city. The grain dole, the unknower, might provide the raw material, but you provide the finished product. You provide the very staple of life. It's a respectable trade. Some bakers, like the famous Eurysaces, whose grand tomb still stands near the Porta Maggiore, became fantastically wealthy. His tomb is a monument to bread, decorated with giant stone cylinders meant to represent grain measures and kneading machines. It's a testament to the fact that a man can build a legacy out of flour and water. Yet, for many bakers, particularly those whose ancestors were slaves, the profession wasn't a choice. A major historical fact of your life is that, by law, bakers were often bound to their collegium, their guild, for life. It was a hereditary duty, passed from father to son, ensuring the city would never go hungry, a respectable prison of a sort. Historians can't quite agree on the precise social standing of every baker. Some were wealthy freedmen who owned entire chains of shops, while others were little more than skilled slaves. You fall somewhere in the middle. You own this shop, but this shop also owns you. You are a man of property and a man of routine, and tonight the routine begins again in the cold and the dark. With the sleeping city as your witness, you stand in the center of the main room, letting your eyes adjust to the deeper darkness. Within, the only light is the faint purple glow filtering through the open doorway. The silence inside the bakery is different from the silence of the street. It's a working silence, pregnant with potential. It's the quiet of a stage before the actors arrive. Your gaze falls upon the heart of your operation, the great beast that dominates the back wall, the oven. Even cold and dormant, it has a presence. It's a huge brick-and-mortar dome, a man-made cave with a wide-arched mouth, blackened with the soot of countless firings. To you, it is not just a tool, it is a partner. It has a spirit, a personality. It can be cooperative or cantankerous. It can be your greatest ally or your most frustrating obstacle. And it has a name, or rather, a divine patron, the goddess of the oven. Your first act of the day is always the same. You walk to the oven's mouth and place your hand on the cool brick beside it. You murmur a few quiet words, not a grand prayer, not a formal invocation you'd hear in a temple. It's a simple, personal greeting, a request for her cooperation. You ask that she draw well, that her heat be even and true, and that she not scorch the morning's first batch. It's a small ritual, a conversation between a craftsman and the soul of his craft. A shuffling sound from the corner makes you turn. Your apprentice Marcus is emerging from the small alcove where he sleeps on a pallet. He is a boy of 16, lanky and perpetually sleepy, the son of a cousin from a village in the hills. He moves with the kind of deliberate slowness only a teenager forced to wake up at 3 a.m. can truly master. He gives you a nod, his eyes still half closed. The oven. "Marcus," you say, your voice a low rumble in the quiet room. He nods again and shuffles over to the woodpile. Together, you begin the slow process of waking the beast. First, you use a long iron rake to clear out the ashes and embers from yesterday's bake. A cloud of fine grey dust fills the air, catching the faint light and swirling like confused ghosts. Then, the new wood. You lay a careful foundation of smaller, dry kindling, then stack larger pieces of pine and oak on top. An art to it, learned over years. Too tight, and the fire will choke. Too loose, and it will burn too fast. All flash and no substance. Marcus brings you a small clay lamp, its wick sputtering. With a taper, you carry the tiny flame to the mouth of the oven and touch it to the kindling. It catches slowly at first, a hesitant orange glow. Then, with a soft whoosh, the flames lick upwards, and the oven begins to breathe. The crackle of burning wood is the first loud sound of your workday, a welcome and familiar song. The fire is for more than just baking. In a few weeks, the city will celebrate the Fornacolia, the festival honoring your goddess, Fornax. This is your high holiday. The major historical fact that shapes your spiritual year is this ancient, roving festival. It doesn't happen on a single day for everyone. Instead, it's organized by Curia, the 30 ancient neighborhood divisions of Rome. Each Curia celebrates on a different day in February, announced by the Curio Maximus. On that day, the families of the neighborhood would bring a portion of their spelt, the first grain cultivated by the Romans, to be parched and toasted in the communal ovens as an offering to Fornax, ensuring the grain for the coming year would be good. It's a system that seems both deeply spiritual and a clever way to avoid everyone asking to borrow your oven on the same day. A strange, and for some, stressful, cultural tidbit about this festival is what happens if you forget your curia or miss its designated day. There's a final catch-all date on the calendar, February 17th, known as the Quirinalia. This day is also called the Stultorum Feriae, the Festival of Fools. Anyone who was foolish enough to have forgotten their duty must make their offerings on this day. It's a public admission of forgetfulness, a minor social shame. It's the ancient equivalent of getting a parking ticket on your own soul. You, of course, know your day. You are the master of the oven. You could never be a fool. Scholars still debate the exact nature of Fornax herself, whether she was a full-fledged goddess with a complex mythology, or more of a numen, a divine spirit or force specifically tied to the function of the oven. For you, the distinction is meaningless. She is the heat, the transformation, the power that turns wet, lifeless dough into crisp, nourishing bread. She is real in every loaf you pull from her fiery belly. As the fire grows, a comforting warmth begins to push back against the room's deep chill. The flickering light dances across the walls, illuminating the tools of your trade hanging from wooden pegs, long-handled wooden peels for inserting and removing bread, scrapers for the kneading trough, and brushes for sweeping the oven floor. It casts long, dancing shadows from the great millstones that stand silent in the corner, waiting for their own day's work to begin. You and Marcus stand for a moment, simply watching the flames, two figures silhouetted against the growing light, warming your hands and waiting for the goddess to get up to temperature. The day has truly begun. The oven is now a hungry mouth of roaring orange, its heat pressing outwards into the room like a physical presence. The chill has retreated to the furthest corners, a defeated foe. It's warm enough now to work without. Your teeth chattering, which is the Roman definition of workplace comfort. You turn to Marcus, who is staring into the flames as if hoping to divine his future in them. His future, for the next several hours, is kneading dough. You almost feel sorry for him. The leaven, Marcus, you say, and he snaps out of his trance. He moves to a large, covered clay pot in the corner. This is your starter, your mother dough. It is a living thing, a bubbling, breathing culture of wild yeast and bacteria that you have kept alive for years. It is the soul of your bread. Each day, you take a piece from it to start the new batch. And each day you feed it with fresh flour and water to keep it going. It's a bit like having a very low maintenance, yet financially critical, pet. If it dies, your business dies with it. Marcus scoops out a large, gloopy mass of the starter and plops it into the massive wooden kneading trough, a long, hollowed-out log that stands at waist height. Now for the main ingredients. He adds water from a large amphora, and then the flour. This isn't the fine, powdery white flour a senator might enjoy in his delicate pastries. This is the people's flour. The major historical fact of your daily grind is the grain itself, supplied by the It's a coarse, brownish whole wheat flour, full of bran and grit. It makes a dense, heavy loaf, but it is filling. It is the fuel of the legions, the masons, the dockworkers. It is the substance of Rome. You run a handful of it through your fingers. Sometimes the quality varies. Some weeks it's fine, from the rich fields of Egypt. Other times, it's clearly been stored too long in a damp warehouse down by the river. And you have to work twice as hard to get a decent loaf from it. You suspect a supply manager somewhere is lining his pockets, but complaining is not an option. You take what you are given and you make bread. Together, you and Marcus begin to work the dough. At first, it is a shaggy, wet mess, but slowly, under the rhythmic push and pull of your hands, it begins to transform. You fold, you press, you turn. It's a dance you've done 1,000 times. Your muscles, warm and loose now, know the movements better than your mind. The air fills with the sweet, tangy smell of the fermenting yeast, a scent that, to you, is the smell of life itself. The dough begins to fight back, developing strength and elasticity. This is where the craft leads in, feeling the dough, in knowing when it has been worked enough, when it is ready to rest and rise. Your work connects you to a tradition far older and more sacred than just feeding the city. You think of the Vestal Virgins, the most revered women in Rome. One of their holiest duties is the preparation of mola salsa. This obscure but vital cultural tidbit is a mixture of salt and coarse ground spelt flour, toasted in an oven not so different from your own. They sprinkle this sacred flour on the heads of animals destined for sacrifice, consecrating them to the gods. It strikes you as faintly ironic that the highest priestesses in the land are, in a way, fellow bakers. You wonder if they complain about the quality of their spelt, or if one of them has a lazy apprentice. Probably not. As you work, you can feel the slight imperfections in the flour, the odd bit of chaff, the tiny fleck of stone from the mill. Historians would one day argue about what exactly was in the bread of the common Roman, while the law dictated wheat. It's widely believed that in times of shortage, or for the cheapest loaves, other fillers like ground fava beans, chickpeas, or millet, were mixed in to extend the supply. You've heard of less scrupulous bakers doing this. You do not. Your pride is in your product, even if it is made from humble ingredients. A good name is worth more than a few extra sesterces saved on beans. Finally, the dough is smooth and resilient. It holds its shape. You cover the great trough with a heavy linen cloth and move it closer to the oven, into the bubble of warmth that now fills the bakery. Now it must rest. It must rise. It must perform its slow, quiet miracle. Marcus leans against the wall, breathing heavily, his arms dusted with flour up to his elbows. He's earned a brief rest. For a moment, there is peace again. Just the crackle of the fire, the faint hiss of the rising dough, and the immense, sleeping city all around you. The dough is resting, but you are not. The work is a cycle, and as one part ends, another begins. The flour you just used was from yesterday's milling. Today you must grind the grain for tomorrow's bread. This is the most physically demanding part of your day, the part that requires a partner who is stronger, more patient, and complains significantly less than your apprentice. This partner is waiting for you in the small, stone-paved yard behind the bakery. His name is Silvanus, and he is a donkey. You unlatch the back door, and a wave of cool, fresh air washes over you. The sky has lightened to a soft, pearly grey. The outlines of the neighboring rooftops are sharp against it. Silvanus is standing patiently by a water trough, his long ears twitching at the sound of the door. He is a small, sturdy beast, the color of dust, with dark, knowing eyes. He snorts softly as you approach, a puff of steam in the cool air. You run a hand down his neck, the coarse hair familiar under your palm. He's a good animal, your most valuable employee, really. You lead him from the yard into the bakery's main room, his hooves clicking softly on the stone floor. He knows the way. He walks directly to the centerpiece of the room, an object as important as the oven itself. The mill, the major historical fact that powers your entire enterprise, is this piece of technology. It's called a molla azenaria, a donkey-powered rotary mill. It's an ingenious Roman invention found in bakeries from Britain to Syria. It consists of two parts made from hard, volcanic stone. The bottom part, the meta, is a stationary cone, fixed to the floor. The top part, the catalyst, is a heavy, hourglass-shaped stone that fits over the meta. The grain is poured into the hollow top of the catalyst, and as the stone turns, the grain is fed down into the narrow gap between the two stones, where it is ground into flour. You attach Silvanus to the heavy wooden harness that connects to the catalyst. He will spend the next few hours walking in a slow, endless circle, turning the massive stone. To prevent him from getting dizzy or distracted, or from snacking on the grain he is meant to be grinding, you tie a strip of cloth over his eyes. It's a common practice. Historians will later debate just how grim life was. For a baker's donkey, with some evidence suggesting they spent their entire lives blindfolded, walking in a circle in the dusty dark. You try not to think about it too much. Silvanus is well fed, he is safe from predators, and his working day, while dull, is probably no worse than that of many humans you know. He doesn't have a retirement plan, but then again, neither do you. Before he begins, you check the small bronze bell tied to his harness. This isn't for decoration. This small, obscure cultural practice is a form of protection. The tinkling sound is thought to ward off the malus oculus, the evil eye. A resentful neighbor or a rival baker could, with a single envious glance, bewitch your donkey, lame him, or even curse your flower. The bell and the small carved phallic charm, also tied to the harness, are your insurers against bad magic. It's better to be safe than to have your entire batch of flour inexplicably sour. You pour a sack of the state-provided wheat into the top of the mill. With a gentle slap on his flank and a soft-spoken command, Sylvanus begins to walk. The great stone groans as it starts to turn. Then it settles into a steady, rhythmic, grinding crunch. It is the sound of rock crushing grain, the sound of potential being unlocked. A fine, pale dust begins to rise from the mill, coating everything nearby in a thin white layer. The air, already thick with the smell of yeast and wood smoke, now adds the dry, nutty scent of fresh ground flour. Remember that fine, powdery scent that coated every surface when you first walked in. This is its birth. You watch Sylvanus take a few circuits, his pace steady, the bell tinkling softly with each step. The rhythm of his hooves and the grinding of the stone will be the soundtrack to the next phase of your morning. The dough is rising, the oven is heating, the flour for tomorrow is being made. Everything is in its place, moving according to the ancient, unspoken choreography of your trade. The city outside is still mostly asleep, but here, in your small corner of it, the world is already hard at work. The grinding of the mill is now a steady, hypnotic rhythm in the background. It is the pulse of your workday. Sylvanus, patient and tireless, continues his circular pilgrimage. The air is thick with the warmth from the oven and the fine, clean dust of the flour. You walk over to the long kneading trough where the dough has been resting. You lift a corner of the linen cloth. The sight is a small, daily miracle. The dough has swollen to twice its size, its surface a smooth, taut dome, full of captured air and the quiet energy of fermentation. It is alive now, more alive, you sometimes think, than Marcus before his first sip of water. It is time. You call to your apprentice, who is sweeping the last of yesterday's stray flour from the floor. Marcus, shaping together, you turn the risen dough out onto a floured wooden board. It sighs softly as it deflates, a gentle release of its captured breath. It is soft, pliable, and wonderfully alive under your hands. You work quickly, your movements efficient and sure. You cut the great mass into smaller, uniform pieces using a simple iron scraper. Each piece will become a loaf of Ponies Quadratus, the standard bread of Rome. This is the bread you see everywhere. The bread immortalized in the ruins of Pompeii, perfectly preserved under layers of volcanic ash. The major historical fact that defines your final product is its shape. You roll each piece of dough into a round, slightly flattened ball. Then, using the edge of your hand or a dull blade, you press deep lines into the top at right angles, dividing the surface into 4 quarters. You then score it around its circumference. The result is a loaf with 8 clear sections, designed not for slicing with a knife, but for breaking. It's a practical design for a populace that eats with its hands, a pre-portioned meal perfect for sharing. You've always thought it a clever way to prevent family arguments over who gets the biggest piece. A problem as old as Rome itself. As you shape, Marcus prepares the baker's stamp. It's a small bronze device with a wooden handle bearing your personal mark. It's not your name, you are not important enough for that, but a simple symbol. 3 stalks of wheat bound together. This is your brand, your guarantee of quality. An obscure cultural tidbit of your trade is that these stamps were essential, a form of ancient copyright. If you were selling a large batch to a contractor for his work crew, or if a wealthy household sent a slave with their own high-quality flour for a special bake, your stamp proved the loaf was yours. It was a mark of authenticity in a city full of shortcuts. Your brand might as well be slightly gritty, but honest. You press the stamp firmly into the center of each shaped loaf. One by one, you and Marcus transfer the pale, marked rounds of dough onto long, flat wooden peels, ready for the oven. They will rest here for a few final minutes, puffing up slightly one last time before the fire. You pause for a moment, looking at the rows of waiting loaves. Outside, the sky is now a brighter shade of grey. The first real sounds of the city are beginning to filter in: distant cartwheel groaning, the metallic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the indistinct murmur of the first few people moving through the streets. The world is waking up, drawn from its slumber by the promise of the sun. But you have been awake for hours. You have been a partner to the darkness and the cold. You've coaxed life from flour and water, and now you stand ready, the fruits of your labor laid out before you, waiting for the final, fiery transformation. It's not entirely clear if every single loaf baked in the city was stamped, or if it was a practice reserved for commercial sales versus loaves baked for a fee. But for you, it is a point of pride. Each stamped loaf is a silent signature. It says, "I made this. It is good. The time has come." The oven has reached its peak temperature, a shimmering heat radiating from its mouth. The bricks around the opening are too hot to touch. You can feel the intense energy within, a contained inferno. You give Marcus a nod. He takes a long-handled brush dipped in water and, with a few quick, expert swipes, he mops the oven floor. A great cloud of steam billows out with a loud hiss, cleaning the stone surface of any remaining ash and creating a humid environment perfect for a crisp crust. Now, speed and precision are key. You take the first loaded peel. In one smooth, fluid motion that is more muscle memory than conscious thought, you slide it deep into the oven and, with a sharp jerk, deposit the loaves onto the hot stone floor. You and Marcus work in tandem, a well-practiced dance, filling the oven in a matter of moments. Finally, you place a heavy iron door over the opening, trapping the heat and the steam inside. The baking has begun. It does not take long. The intense, retained heat of the brick dome cooks the bread quickly. While you wait, Marcus goes to the front of the shop. You hear the groan of wood and the rattle of a bolt as he opens the wide shutter. That serves as your storefront. It's a simple counter, open to the street, a window into your warm, fragrant world. The street you walked down in darkness is now bathed in the cool, flat light of early morning. A few people are already passing by, their heads turning as the first intoxicating scent of your work escapes the shop. There is no marketing campaign more effective than the smell of fresh baking bread on a cold morning. It's a primal invitation. A few minutes later, you swing the iron door open. The wave of heat that rolls out is immense, and it carries with it one of the best smells in the world. The loaves are transformed. They are no longer pale and doughy, but a beautiful, deep golden brown, their crusts blistered and crackled. Using the peel, you retrieve them from the oven's depths, their scored lines now puffed into proud ridges. You slide them onto wooden cooling racks, the sound of the crusts crackling and singing in the cooler. Aerosound bakers call the applause. This moment highlights the major historical fact of your business model. You don't just sell these finished loaves. Many of your first customers are not here to buy, but to collect. The Roman grain dole, the unknower, provided free grain to hundreds of thousands of citizens, but most of them lived in cramped apartments with no kitchens, so they brought their ration to you. For a small, fixed fee, you would mill their grain and bake their bread. You were less a retailer and more an essential public utility. Your first customer of the day is a testament to this. A young slave girl, shivering in a thin tunic, arrives with a small sack of flour from a wealthy household a few streets over. She also has a small bowl containing a mixture of soft cheese and an egg. She asks if you can bake a libum for the family's morning shrine. This little cheesecake is an obscure but common treat, a simple offering to the household spirits. It's a fiddly, low-profit job, but refusing a powerful house is bad for business. You take her flour and her bowl and tell her to return in an hour. Next is a construction foreman from the new bathhouse project down the road. A big man with plaster in his hair. He buys 10 loaves for his crew's breakfast, paying with a handful of worn bronze coins. He breaks one in half as he leaves, the steam billowing out, and bites into it with a look of profound satisfaction. Your customers are the working heart of Rome, people whose jobs are often harder and colder than yours. They aren't looking for artisan rye or fancy pastries. They are looking for fuel, for warmth, for a simple, honest mouthful of comfort to start a long day. Historians debate how standardized the fee was for baking a citizen's personal grain. Was it set by the guild, or did bakers have leeway to haggle? You keep your prices fair. A reputation for honesty, you found, is the best way to ensure the line at your counter never gets too short. The morning rush is a controlled chaos. The street outside your shop is now a bustling artery of the city. The noise is a symphony of urban life. The rumble of iron-rimmed cartwheels on stone pavers. The shouts of vendors hawking everything from cheap wine to mended sandals. The braying of a distant donkey not yours. You can tell by the indignant tone and the constant hum of 1,000 conversations. Your shop is an island of warmth and enticing smells in this river of humanity. People come and go in a steady stream. A mother with 2 small children buys a single loaf, breaking it into 3 pieces as soon as she steps away from the counter. A legionary on leave, his military cloak still pristine, buys 2 loaves and a small bag of olives from the woman in the stall next door, constructing a simple but hearty breakfast. A well-dressed steward from a senator's villa arrives to collect a large order of specially baked rolls made with finer, whiter flour that his master provided. He inspects one critically before nodding, his face a mask of professional disapproval that you've learned to ignore. Compliments are for poets and generals, not for bakers. A lack of complaints is the highest praise you can expect. You work at the counter, taking the coins, making change, and handing over the warm, crusty loaves. Your hands are dusty with flour, your face damp from the oven's heat. You exchange a few words with your regulars. You ask after an old man's cough. You compliment a woman on her son's new haircut. These are the small threads of community, woven in the brief transactions over your counter. It's like a modern-day social media feed, but with more substance and significantly better smells. The major historical fact that underpins this entire scene is the sheer scale of Rome's logistical needs. Feeding a city of 1 million people without refrigeration or rapid transport was arguably the greatest administrative achievement of the ancient world. The unknown system, which you are a part of, was not just about giving away free grain. It was a complex web of shipping fleets, river barges, warehouses, officials, and, finally, bakers like you. It was a state-run food supply chain on an epic scale, designed to keep the massive, often volatile, population of Rome fed and, therefore, content. A hungry mob was a dangerous mob, and the emperors knew that the path to stability was paved. With bread amidst the sails, you find time to take care of the libum, the little cheesecake for the wealthy household. You mix the girl's cheese and egg with a bit of your own flour, shape it into a small, round cake on a bed of bay leaves, and slide it into a cooler part of the oven. The use of bay leaves is a key, if obscure, part of the recipe. They not only prevent the cake from sticking to the oven floor, but also impart a faint, aromatic, and almost medicinal flavor to the finished product. It's a trick passed down from your father, a tiny piece of culinary wisdom. You suspect the gods appreciate a well-seasoned offering. Suddenly, a commotion down the street catches your attention. A group of vigils, the city's combination, police force and fire brigade, are marching past in formation. They are imposing figures in their dark leather armor, carrying axes and buckets. They are not responding to an alarm. It's just a routine patrol, but their presence is a constant reminder of the city's greatest fear: fire. In a city of tightly packed wooden tenements and countless open flames, a stray spark could be catastrophic. Historians have documented several great fires of Rome, infernos that consumed entire districts. The vigils are the city's first line of defense, but everyone knows they are often fighting a losing battle. Their passing casts a brief, sober shadow over the morning's business. Your brick oven, a source of life and livelihood, is also a potential seed of destruction. It's a responsibility you carry every day, as heavy as a sack of grain. The morning rush begins to taper off as the sun climbs higher in the sky. The city has had its breakfast. Now, the second phase of your day begins. The specialty bakes. While the coarse brown panis quadratus is your bread and butter. Quite literally, you also make a few other items for those with a few extra coins to spend. This is where you get to be a little more creative. Marcus has been busy cleaning the kneading trough and preparing a new, smaller batch of dough. This one is different. To the flour and water, you add a drizzle of olive oil, a sprinkle of salt, and a handful of rosemary that you grow in a pot in the small yard where Sylvanus sleeps. The dough is softer, more supple. You shape it not into rounds, but into long, flat pieces. This will be focaccia, a simple flatbread that you'll sell by the slice to hungry passers-by. At midday, your gaze drifts back to the oven. It has cooled slightly, its initial ferocious heat mellowed to a steady, even bake. Perfect for what comes next. A customer, a local merchant who owns a small fabric shop, has brought you a pan of his own creation, figs stuffed with walnuts and drizzled with honey. He doesn't have an oven of his own, so he pays you a small fee to bake it in yours. You slide it in carefully. Your bakery functions as a kind of neighborhood hub, a communal utility. It's the ancient Roman version of a cloud kitchen, except the cloud is a literal cloud of flour dust. The major historical fact of this part of your day is the Roman diet itself. While we often think of lavish, multi-course banquets, the reality for most Romans was far simpler. Bread was the centerpiece, but it was often supplemented with whatever was cheap and available: olives, cheese, fruits, and vegetables. Meat was a luxury. Your simple rosemary flatbread and the merchant's baked figs are a much more accurate picture of the average Roman lunch than roasted dormice or flamingo tongues. It was a Mediterranean diet in its truest form, built on the trinity of grain, grapes, and olives. As you work, you notice a small terracotta figurine tucked into a niche in the wall above the cooling racks. It's a depiction of a minor god, one you wouldn't find in the grand temples of the Forum. This is Polymnus, an ancient agricultural deity. This obscure cultural tidbit is a nod to your trade's deeper roots. Polymnus was the mythical inventor of the pestle for pounding grain. Before the great donkey mills, he was the patron of turning grain into flour. Keeping his image in the bakery is a sign of respect for the old ways, a recognition that your work is built on thousands of years of innovation. Some scholars wonder if these minor, specialized gods were truly worshipped or were more like good luck charms. For you, it feels like having an old, experienced ancestor watching over your work. You don't pray to him daily like you do to Fornax, but his presence is a quiet comfort. Sylvanus has finished his shift. The grinding has stopped, replaced by a much more pleasant, rhythmic chewing. You've unharnessed him, removed his blindfold, and led him back to his yard, where a measure of barley and fresh water awaits. He has earned his rest. Marcus is now tasked with turning the giant stones himself for a short while, to grind a smaller batch of finer flour for tomorrow's specialty. Bakes his groans as he pushes the heavy wooden beam are a stark contrast to the donkey's quiet efficiency. It's a good lesson for the boy. It teaches him to appreciate the value of a good beast of burden. As you pull the merchant's bubbling, fragrant figs from the oven, you feel a sense of quiet satisfaction. You have fed the city its breakfast, and now you are preparing its lunch. The day is not yet half over. The midday sun streams into the street, a harsh, bright light that makes you squint. The air is warmer now, carrying the smells of the 1,000 other lives being lived around you. The sharp tang of a tanner's workshop down the lane, the scent of sizzling sausages from a street food stall, the dust kicked up by a passing courier on horseback. The frantic energy of the morning has settled into the steady thrum of a city at work. Inside the bakery, it is a time of transition. The last of the morning's bread has been sold. The cooling racks are empty. The oven, though still hot, is dormant. Marcus, having finished his turn at the mill, is now sweeping the floor with a diligence that suggests he would rather be doing anything else. You are wiping down the counter, the wood worn smooth by years of transactions, a mosaic of tiny dents from countless coins. This lull in the day is when you take your own meal. It is not elaborate. You take one of the rosemary flatbreads you baked earlier, still warm. You break it in half and drizzle it with a bit of olive oil. You have a small wedge of hard sheep's cheese and a handful of dark, wrinkled olives. You sit on a low stool just inside the doorway of the shop, watching the world go by. This is your lunch break. There are no designated break rooms, no half-hour guarantees. You eat when the work allows. As you eat, you watch the flow of people. You see a wealthy woman carried past in a litter, her face veiled, borne on the shoulders of 4 sweating slaves. You see a group of schoolboys, their wax tablets tucked under their arms, laughing as they chase a loose chicken. You see a grizzled soldier with a scarred face haggling fiercely with a fruit seller. It is the grand, chaotic, and endlessly fascinating pageant of Roman life, and you have a front row seat. Your simple meal, this ponies et chinsis bread and circuses is missing the circus. But the street provides a decent substitute. This brief period of rest is a necessity, a small moment to recharge before the afternoon's work begins. The major historical fact that governs this rhythm is the Roman workday itself. For most working people, the day was structured around the sun. Work began at dawn and typically ended in the early afternoon. This left the later part of the day free for other activities, most famously, a visit to the public baths. This was the center of social life, a place to get clean, exercise, do business, and catch up on the day's gossip. You have not been to the baths in weeks. The bakery is a demanding master. As you finish your meal, a familiar figure approaches. It is your wife, Gaia, carrying a clay jug of water mixed with a little wine. She has their son, Lucius, by the hand. He is 5 years old, a small boy with your dark hair and his mother's serious eyes. He clutches a wooden toy horse. Gaia hands you the jug. The watered wine is cool and slightly tart, cutting through the oil and salt of your meal. It is refreshing. She looks around the clean-swept bakery, at the waiting sacks of flour, at the quiet oven. "A good morning," she asks. "A good morning," you confirm. The foreman from the baths bought 10 loaves. She nods, a small smile touching her lips. That was a good sale. She brings news from the apartment block, the neighborhood's own intricate social web. An old woman on the 3rd floor is ill. The family on the ground floor is arguing again, their shouts audible, all the way to the street. This is the stuff of daily life, the small victories and grievances that make up a world. This brings to mind a strange and somewhat grim cultural tidbit about bakers' guilds. While your collegium provides a sense of community and professional standards, it was also used by emperors for less savory purposes. On occasion, when an emperor needed to send a clear message, he would execute a few bakers for alleged cheating or hoarding grain, even if the charges were baseless. It was a brutal form of public relations, meant to show the populace that the emperor was protecting their food supply. Historians still debate how common this practice was, but the threat was always there, a dark undercurrent to your respectable trade. It's a good reason to keep your loaves honest and your name clean. You look at your son, happily making his toy horse gallop across the dusty floor, and you are reminded of what you are working for. Not just for coins, but for them. For this small, precious world you have built in the heart of the largest city on earth. Your family's visit is brief. Gaia needs to get to the public fountain to fetch water for the evening, and Lucius is already growing restless. Before they leave, you break off a small piece of the flatbread for your son. He takes it with a solemnity that makes you smile, as if he is receiving a sacred offering. He chews it slowly, his eyes wide. This is his father's work. This is the taste of home. They depart, leaving a small pocket of silence in their wake. The brief respite is over. The afternoon brings a different kind of work. The oven has now cooled to the perfect temperature for slow baking. For the delicate items that would be incinerated by the morning's fierce heat. This is the time for sweets. Your main offering is a simple honey cake called melka. You've prepared a batter from flour, milk, and a generous amount of honey. It's a sticky, fragrant mixture. You pour it into small, greased clay molds. Honey is the primary sweetener of the Roman world. The major historical fact is that sugar, derived from cane, was virtually unknown to them. It existed as a rare and fantastically expensive medicinal import from India, something only an emperor might taste. For everyone else, from the richest senator to the poorest dock worker, the sweetness of life came from honey or from fruits. Beekeeping was a serious and widespread agricultural practice. Your honey comes from a farmer in the hills outside the city, a man whose family has kept hives for generations. It's a dark, rich honey, full of the taste of wildflowers. As you slide the honey cakes into the oven, you think about the Roman love for sweet things, particularly the combination of sweet and savory. One of the most popular condiments in Rome, a staple you sometimes use in special order bakes, is defrutum. This obscure cultural tidbit is a grape syrup made by boiling down grape juice until it becomes thick and intensely sweet. They added it to everything, from meat stews to desserts. Some recipes even suggest it was made in lead pots, which would have imparted a dangerous, though apparently delicious, sweetness to the syrup. This has led some modern historians to speculate, perhaps a bit dramatically, that widespread lead poisoning from things like defrutum and lead water pipes contributed to the decline of the Roman Empire. You don't know about all that. You just know that your neighbor's defrutum tastes a bit metallic, so you stick to honey. The honey cakes bake slowly, filling the bakery with a rich caramelized scent that is completely different from the morning's yeasty aroma. It's a smell that draws in a different kind of customer. Schoolboys with a single coin to spend, young lovers looking for a small treat to share, a tired scribe on his way home from a long day of copying scrolls. These are small sales, but they add up. Marcus is now in charge of the deliveries. Some of your wealthier clients don't come to you, you go to them. He loads a large basket with the senator's special rolls from the morning bake and the freshly baked libum. He will navigate the crowded streets to the grand house on the Esquiline Hill. It is a journey into another world, a world of marble courtyards, painted frescoes, and quiet gardens. You sent him on his first delivery a year ago. He came back, wide-eyed, telling stories of mosaic floors that looked like real fish and of servants who wore cleaner tunics than most free men. It's a reminder of the vast gulfs that exist within this one city. You are a successful man in your world, the world of the street and the shop. But just a few hundred paces away, there are fortunes so vast you can barely comprehend them. Remember the quiet street you walked down this morning. Now imagine Marcus carrying your bread down that same street, only now it's packed with the city's elite, a world away from the pre-dawn solitude. It's a good experience for the boy. It teaches him humility, and it motivates him to work hard. Maybe one day he won't be the one delivering the bread, but the one receiving it. The honey cakes are done. You pull them from the oven, small and golden brown, their surfaces glistening. The smell is almost intoxicatingly sweet. You arrange them on the counter, a tempting display for the afternoon crowd. They are simple, but they are a small, affordable luxury, a moment of sweetness in a hard world. As you are setting them out, a figure in a dark, hooded cloak steps up to the counter. You can't see their face, which is not unusual in a city full of people who might have reasons to be discreet. The figure places a small, heavy purse on the counter. The clink of the coins inside is deep and resonant. Not the bronze asses of your usual customers, but the silver of denarii. I have a special request, a low voice says from beneath the hood. The voice is educated, refined, not the rough accent of the street. You nod, your professional demeanor clicking into place. I'm listening. I need bread for a dinner party, the voice says, the hesitation deliberate. But it must not be the usual fare. It needs to be memorable. Something dark and rich. Something to be talked about. This is an unusual request. Most wealthy patrons send their stewards with specific instructions and their own high-quality flour. This cloak and dagger approach is something new. It piques your curiosity. It's the kind of moment that breaks the endless monotony of the day. You think for a moment. I can make a ponis picenis, you offer. It's an older recipe, made with spelt flour and it must be kneaded with the juice of raisins and figs. It is left to soak for 9 days before baking. It is dark, sweet, and very dense. An ancient bread. The figure seems to consider this. The major historical fact here is that while your daily bread is simple, Roman culinary literature, like the cookbook attributed to Apicius, is filled with elaborate and sometimes bizarre recipes. Plinius Picenus is one of them, a testament to a Roman palate that enjoyed complex, aged flavors. It's not something you make often, as it requires planning and expensive ingredients. That sounds appropriate, the voice says. But I need it for tomorrow night. You almost laugh. 9 days of soaking cannot be accomplished in one. The bread would be a lie. You are a craftsman. You do not cut corners. The figure is silent. For a moment, you can feel their frustration. Is there nothing else? Something exotic? You think again, scanning the pantry of your mind. There is one other thing. It is not exactly bread. It is a savory cake. It is made with pine nuts, pepper, honey, and a little bit of garum. The mention of garum makes even you pause. This obscure cultural tidbit is the infamous Roman fish sauce, a condiment as essential to Roman cooking as salt. It was made by fermenting the intestines and blood of fish in brine for several months. The result was a pungent, salty, umami-rich liquid that Romans, by all accounts, adored. It came in many grades, from the cheap, potent stuff sold in clay jugs on every corner to a refined, expensive version that was almost clear. The idea of putting it in a cake sounds, even to you, faintly disgusting. It's the ancient equivalent of putting ketchup in a birthday cake. Fish sauce in a cake. The voice asks, a note of incredulity in their tone. It provides us that balances the honey, you explain, quoting a line your grandfather once told you. It is a surprising taste. It is memorable. No one will forget it. Historians still debate the exact flavor profile of garum, trying to recreate it, but all agree it was a powerful and defining taste of the era. Whether it belongs in a cake is a matter of personal opinion, one that has been lost to time. There is another long silence. The purse on the counter seems to pulse with unspoken promise. Very well, the voice says at last. Make me this fish cake. Make enough for 20 guests. And deliver it to the Villa Publica on the Capitoline Hill. Tomorrow, just before sunset, ask for Claudius, and be discreet. De Villa Publica, a state-owned building used for public business, for lodging foreign ambassadors, for taking the census, not a private home. This is getting stranger. You nod. It will be done. The figure pushes the purse towards you. It contains more than enough. Silver to cover the expensive pine nuts, the honey, the best garum, and your time. It is a down payment on discretion. The figure turns and melts back into the afternoon crowd as silently as they arrived. You stand there for a moment, the heavy purse in your hand, the scent of sweet honey cakes in the air, and the ghost of a very strange order hanging between them. Your day just went from routine to interesting, and interesting, in Rome, can often mean dangerous. The encounter with the cloaked figure leaves a strange energy in the air. It's like a stone dropped into the calm pond of your daily routine. The Villa Publica, a secret dinner party, a fish sauce cake. It's the plot of a lurid play, not an order for a humble baker. But the silver denarii in your hand are very real. You tuck the purse safely away. For now, you must focus on the task at hand. Marcus returns from his delivery to the Esquiline Hill, his basket empty. He looks tired but satisfied. The steward said the rolls were acceptable, he reports, which from that particular man is high praise indeed. Good, you say, your mind already moving on. Now, I need you to go to the market. I have a list. This is a change of pace for Marcus. Usually, you do the shopping yourself, but this order is different, and it requires ingredients you don't keep on hand. You give him a few of the silver coins, an amount that makes his eyes go wide. Go to the spice stalls in the Vicus Tuscus. Find the best pine nuts they have, not the old ones, and pepper. The price will be high, so bargain, but do not buy dust. I want whole peppercorns. Then, the most important part. And you must find a shop that sells garum sociorum, the good stuff, from Hispania. Tell the merchant it is for a senator's table. He will know what you mean. The major historical fact here is the incredible specificity and branding of Roman trade goods. Products were known by their region of origin. The best figs came from Caria, the best dates from Thebes, and the finest, most sought-after garum was garum sociorum, made from mackerel in the fisheries of Cartagena, in Hispania, modern-day Spain. It was the Dom Perignon of fish sauce. Giving Marcus this task is a test. It requires him to navigate the chaotic, shark-infested waters of the Roman markets, to deal with wily merchants, and to show discernment. It's the next step in his education. While Marcus is gone, you begin the final bake of the day. This is for the simplest of your customers, the poor. Many of the city's inhabitants could not even afford the small fee to have their grain dole baked. For them, there was pony sordidus, literally dirty bread. It was the cheapest loaf you sold, made from the lowest quality flour, often mixed with ground bran or other fillers. It was heavy, dark, and dense, but it was food. It was sustenance. It kept starvation at bay for the price of a single copper coin. You work the rough, uncooperative dough, your thoughts drifting. You think about the two extremes you are dealing with today. A cake made with the most expensive fish sauce in the empire, destined for a secret meeting of powerful men, and a loaf made from little more than floor sweepings, destined for a man who might not have another meal today. And you, the baker, stand in the middle, your hands in both worlds. An obscure cultural tidbit of Roman society was the existence of burial clubs, or collegia funeratia. These were associations poor working people would join, paying small monthly dues. In return, the club would guarantee them a proper burial and a marked grave when they died. It was a way for people with nothing to ensure they wouldn't be unceremoniously dumped into a common burial pit. It was a testament to the profound Roman desire for dignity, for remembrance, even in death. Many of the men and women who buy your pony sordidus are members of such clubs. They may live on the edge of nothing, but they have pooled their meager resources to ensure they will leave the world with a shred of honor. You shape the dark, heavy loaves. There is no stamp for these, no mark of pride. There is only the simple, brute fact of their existence. You slide them into the cooling oven. Historians are uncertain about the exact composition of these cheapest breads, but the consensus is that they were a long way from the nutritious whole wheat of the standard ration. They were survival, baked into a loaf. As the familiar smell of baking fills the shop one last time, you find yourself looking at the small figurine of Palumnus, the god of the pestle. You wonder what he would think of all this. From pounding, spelt by hand, to fish sauce cakes for secret meetings. It has been a long and strange journey. Your day like the history of bread itself, contains multitudes, as the last of the cheap loaves bake in the dying heat of the oven. A sense of winding down settles over the bakery. The afternoon is fading. The light slanting through the doorway is now a warmer, more golden hue, the long shadows of the insulae beginning to stretch across the street. The frantic noise of midday has softened into a more languid end-of-day murmur. You begin the final cleanup. It's a ritual as ingrained as waking the oven. You scrape the last of the dried dough from the long wooden trough. You wipe down the flour-dusted surfaces. You sweep the stone floor for what feels like the 100th time today, gathering the fine dust of your labor into a small pile. Every baker in Rome does this. Every craftsman cleans his tools at the end of the day. It is a mark of respect for your trade, for the space where you earn your living. Marcus returns, his face flushed with a mixture of excitement and exhaustion. He carries a small, tightly woven basket. He managed to procure everything on the list. He proudly shows you the peppercorns, small and dark and intensely aromatic. He holds up a small, sealed amphora, Garum Sociorum. The label is painted on. The clay, a mark of its origin and quality. The merchant tried to sell me a cheaper bottle from Antipolis. Marcus says, his voice full of the pride of a soldier who has won a skirmish. He said my master would never know the difference. I told him my master knows the difference between the wind from the north and the wind from the south, and he certainly knows the difference between Gaulish and Spanish fish sauce. You can't help but smile. The boy is learning. He has learned that quality is not just about the final product, but about every ingredient that goes into it. He has learned to project confidence, even when he doesn't feel it. You clap him on the shoulder. Good work, Marcus. Tomorrow, we will make a cake that will either be a triumph or an abomination. Either way, they will talk about it. Now comes the part of the day you both dread and cherish, closing the books. You don't have spreadsheets or accounting software. You have a wax tablet and a stylus. You sit on your stool, the tablet resting on your knees, and you begin to scratch out the day's accounts. The major historical fact of your small business is the currency itself. You deal in a dizzying array of coins. The silver denarii from your mysterious client are a rare treat. Most of your income is in the bronze and copper denominations, the sestertius, the depontius, the as. Trying to keep it all straight, to calculate your profits after paying for wood, for oil, for the donkey's feed, and for Marcus's small stipend, is a mental exercise that leaves you more tired than kneading dough. While you are immersed in your calculations, an odd, rhythmic clacking sound approaches from the street. It's a sound you recognize. It's a man selling crystallum, a type of biscuit or cookie. This obscure cultural tidbit is a form of ancient mobile vending. The seller carries his wares in a basket and announces his presence not by shouting, but by clacking to small, flat pieces of wood together, like castanets. It's a distinctive sound that cuts through the general noise of the street. He's a competitor of a sort, but you don't mind. His biscuits are thin and dry. Your honey cakes are soft and moist. There's room enough in Rome for both of you. He is part of the street's ecosystem, just like you are. You finish your accounting. It was a good day. The sale to the foreman, the steady stream of regular customers, and the large down payment for the fish cake have put you comfortably ahead. You make a mark on the tablet indicating the day's profit. Historians often struggle to reconstruct the exact economics of a small Roman business, as records like yours were rarely preserved. They were ephemeral, meant to be smoothed over and reused the next day. The numbers you are looking at now are a secret between you and the wax. A fleeting record of a day's survival and small success in the greatest city in the world. You smooth the wax over with the flat end of your stylus, erasing the day's figures. Tomorrow, you will start again from zero. The final task of the day is also one of the most important. It is feeding the mother. You uncover the large clay pot in the corner, the one that holds your precious sourdough starter. It has been sitting all day, a portion of it used for the morning's bread. Now, it must be replenished. You take a measure of the fresh flour that Sylvanus ground this morning. You add fresh water. You mix it into the remaining starter, folding it gently until it is a smooth, consistent paste. It is a simple act, but a vital one. You are feeding the lifeblood of your bakery. This living culture of yeast and bacteria connects you to every loaf you have ever baked and every loaf you will ever bake. It is a chain of life, a legacy in a clay pot. You cover it again, tucking it in for the night like a child. By morning, it will be bubbly and active again, ready to give life to a new day's bread. Now, it is truly time to close. Marcus fastens the heavy wooden shutters over the storefront counter, plunging the room into semi-darkness. The only light comes from the open back door and the faint, dying glow from deep within the oven's mouth. The beast is going to sleep. You take one last look around the shop. The tools are clean and in their place. The floor is swept. The air smells of baked bread, sweet honey, and the faint, lingering heat of the oven. It is a good smell. It is the smell of a day's work well done. You lead Sylvanus from his small yard back into the bakery. This is an unusual arrangement. The major historical fact is that most bakeries with integrated mills, the type discovered in Pompeii, had stables attached directly to the work area. The animals often lived and worked in the same space. Your setup is slightly different. Your yard gives Sylvanus a bit of fresh air, but at night you bring him inside. The streets of Rome are not safe. A good donkey is a valuable asset, and there are plenty of desperate people who might steal him for his meat or his labor. Inside the bakery, with the heavy doors barred, he is safe. He settles into his corner with a soft snort, his day's work. Over dot, as you are about to bar the front door, you notice something on the street. It's a small dog, a scruffy, wiry-haired mutt, nosing at a discarded fruit peel. He looks thin and hungry. On impulse, you take one of the Pony's sordidus loaves, the cheap, dark bread from the final bake, and break it in half. You toss a piece out onto the street. The dog startles, then sniffs it cautiously. He wolfs it down in 3 bites, his tail giving a single, hopeful wag. You toss him the other half. He catches it in the air. This small act of charity is not uncommon, but it touches on an obscure and debated aspect of Roman life, their relationship with animals. While they used animals for brutal entertainment in the arena and worked them to exhaustion, there is also ample evidence of beloved pets. Tombstones have been found with heartfelt inscriptions from masters to their loyal dogs. It's a contradiction. Brutality and affection living side by side. It seems a very Roman and very human thing. Was that dog a stray or a pet that had wandered off? It is impossible to know. For a moment, you've made its life a little better. You close the heavy wooden door and slide the thick iron bolt into place. The sounds of the city are instantly muffled, distant. You are encased in your own small world again. The only sounds are the soft chewing of the donkey and the slow, steady breathing of Marcus, who has already curled up on his pallet in the corner, and fallen fast asleep. The day began in darkness and silence, and so it ends. You stand for a moment in the warm, fragrant dark, a man in his castle of flower, feeling the deep, satisfying ache of fatigue in your bones. It is time to go home. You climb the same crumbling stone stairs you descended in the pre-dawn chill. This time, however, your steps are heavier, slower. The fatigue of the long day has settled deep into your muscles. Each step is a conscious effort. When you open the door to your small apartment, the contrast with the bakery is immediate. The bakery is a place of work, of fire and flour and sweat. This place is a haven. The two small rooms are filled with a soft, flickering light from a single clay oil lamp. The air smells not of baking bread, but of lentil stew, the same dish as last night, but the smell is welcome and comforting. It smells of home. Gaia is sitting on a low stool, mending a tear in your son's tunic. Her hands, which are never idle, move with a steady, practiced grace. She looks up as you enter, and her face breaks into a soft smile. "You are late," she says, but there is no accusation in her voice. It is a simple statement of fact. "There was a special order," you say, slumping onto the other stool. You were too tired to tell her the whole strange story of the cloaked man and the fish sauce cake. That can wait for tomorrow. For now, it is enough to just be here. In this small circle of lamplight, your world shrunk to the size of this room. Your son, Lucius, is asleep on the mattress in the corner, his wooden horse still clutched in his hand. His face is peaceful in the soft light. You watch him for a moment, the steady rise and fall of his small chest. This is why you work. This is the purpose of the long hours, the heat, the endless repetition. It all comes down to this: to a safe room, a warm meal, a sleeping child. Gaia gets up and hands you a wooden bowl filled with the stew. It is thick and savory, full of lentils and a few pieces of carrot and onion. It is not the food of emperors, but it is hot and nourishing, and to your tired body, it feels like the finest feast in Rome. You eat slowly, scooping up the stew with a piece of the day's bread, the same ponies, quadratus, you sell to the city. But for you, it tastes different. It tastes of your own labor. The major historical fact of your evening meal is its simplicity. The Roman dinner, or cena, could be an elaborate, multi-hour affair for the wealthy. But for the vast majority of the population, it was a simple, functional meal, often composed of porridge pools or a stew like the one you were eating. This was the fuel that kept the empire running, far more than the peacock tongues and jellied thrushes of legend. As you eat, Gaia tells you about her trip to the fountain. She saw a neighbor who had just received a letter from her husband, a soldier stationed on the frontier in Germania. The letter had taken 3 months to arrive. This small domestic detail highlights an obscure reality of the Roman world: the sheer difficulty of long-distance communication. The empire was vast, but information traveled at the speed of a horse or a ship. A soldier on the wall in Britain might not hear of an emperor's death in Rome for weeks. Families were separated by immense, silent gulfs of time and distance. Every letter that arrived safely was a small miracle. Hearing this, you are grateful that your own world is small, contained within these few familiar streets. You finish your stew, the warmth spreading through you, loosening the knots of exhaustion. You feel a profound sense of gratitude for this moment of peace, for the quiet rhythm of your domestic life. Historians can reconstruct the grand sweep of Roman history, the battles, the laws, the succession of emperors. But they can only guess at these quiet, unrecorded moments. The feeling of a husband returning home, the shared meal in the lamplight, the silent understanding between two people who have built a life together. These are the moments that make up the true fabric of history, the small, strong threads that are so often invisible. You are living one of those moments now, and it is more valuable than all the silver in the cloaked man's purse. After you finish eating, you take the empty bowl and walk to the small window that overlooks the central courtyard of the insula. The night air is cool on your face. Below, the courtyard is a pit of darkness, but you can see the lights from other families' apartments flickering in the windows opposite. You can hear the murmur of there lives a baby crying, a snatch of laughter, the low notes of a song being hummed. Your apartment building is a hive of humanity, a vertical neighborhood stacked high into the Roman sky. You think about the building itself. The major historical fact of your living situation is its precariousness. Insulae, these massive tenement blocks were notoriously poorly constructed, built by speculative landlords trying to cram as many people as possible into a small footprint. They were often made with cheap timber frames, sun-dried brick, and poor quality concrete. They were prone to fire and, even more terrifyingly, to sudden collapse. The poet Juvenal wrote sarcastically of living in a city propped up with flimsy scaffolding, a joke with a sharp and deadly point. Every time you hear a strange creak in the night, a part of you wonders if this is the night the building gives up. It's a low-level, background anxiety that everyone who lives in these buildings shares. A quiet prayer to Fornax for a well-behaved oven is one thing. A prayer for your landlord to have used decent mortar is another entirely. Gaia comes to stand beside you at the window. She leans her head against your shoulder. You stand there in comfortable silence for a moment, two small figures looking out at the vast, sleeping city. From here, you can't see the grand marble monuments of the Forum or the Emperor's Palace on the Palatine Hill. Your view is of other people's windows, of laundry lines strung between buildings, of the relentless, messy, and beautiful reality of ordinary life. This sense of community, of shared risk and shared existence, is vital. An obscure cultural tidbit of insular life was the informal support network that existed among its residents. If a family fell on hard times, neighbors might share a bit of food. If someone was sick, a neighbor might fetch water for them. It was a system born of necessity. The state provided grain and circuses, but it was your neighbors who would help you if your roof started leaking. You remember the woman on the third floor Gaia mentioned was ill. You make a mental note to bring her a loaf of bread in the morning. A small gesture of solidarity. You turn from the window, the spell of the night broken. It is time for sleep. There are no elaborate bedtime rituals. You wash your face and hands in a small basin of water. You take off your heavy outer tunic, the one that smells of flour and smoke. You lie down on the thin mattress, the straw rustling beneath you. Gaia lies down beside you, and she extinguishes the oil lamp. The room is plunged into absolute darkness. The sounds from the courtyard fade as people settle down for the night. The silence returns, the same deep, immense silence that blanketed the city when you first woke. But this time, it is not a call to work. It is a promise of rest. You lie there, listening to the breathing of your wife and child, the anchors of your world. Remember the feeling of the cold stone floor this morning. Now, the mattress, though thin, feels like the greatest luxury in the world, a refuge for your tired bones. Historians still debate the sleeping arrangements in these small apartments, but it's likely that whole families shared a single room. Their lives lived in close, intimate proximity. There are no secrets here. only a shared vulnerability and a shared need for rest. Your last conscious thought is of the strange fish cake you must bake tomorrow. It feels a world away. For now, there is only the darkness, the quiet, and the slow, welcome pull of sleep. You are not sure what wakes you. It is not a rooster, not yet. The room is still shrouded in the deepest black of night. It is a sound, a distant, frantic shouting, followed by a strange, deep, cracking roar, like a giant beast stirring from its slumber. You sit up, your heart suddenly pounding. Gaia is awake beside you, her hand gripping your arm. "What was that?" she whispers, her voice tight with fear. Before you can answer, another sound begins, a low, ominous rumble that seems to vibrate up through the stone floor of the building. It grows louder, closer. Then the shouting gets more frantic, and you can make out a single, terrifying word being screamed over and over: Ignis, Ignis, fire. You scramble from the bed and stumble to the window. You look out, and your blood runs cold. 2 blocks away, towards the river, the night sky is no longer black. It is a hellish, pulsating orange. A thick column of black smoke is pouring into the air, illuminated from below by a hungry, dancing light. The roaring sound is the sound of a building, an entire insula just like yours, being consumed by flames. The major historical fact that has just shattered. Your sleep is the ever-present danger that stalks every Roman citizen. A catastrophic fire. The vigils, the city's firefighters, would already be on their way. But you know how this story usually ends. With their simple axes and buckets, they are often powerless against a major blaze, especially in a neighborhood where the buildings are packed together like kindling. Their main job is often not to save the burning building, but to tear down the adjacent ones, to create a fire break, sacrificing some homes to save the district. Panic grips you. Your first instinct is your family. "Lucius," you say, your voice hoarse. Gaia is already scooping your sleeping son from his mattress. He wakes with a confused, frightened cry. "Get the coin purse," you tell her, your mind racing. It's the small bag where you keep your household savings. It's not much, but it's everything you have. You pull on your tunic and sandals, your hands clumsy in the dark. The sounds from outside are a growing cacophony. Screams, the crash of falling timber, the roar of the fire. You can smell it now, a sharp, acrid scent of burning wood and something else, something sickeningly sweet. You have to decide. Do you stay here, hoping the fire doesn't spread, or do you flee into the chaos of the streets? Your bakery, your home, everything you own is here. The thought of it all turning to ash is a physical blow. Then you think about the wind. You remember feeling it on your face earlier. Which way was it blowing? You try to clear your head, to think like a baker. Where is the fire? Where is the wind going? It feels like it's blowing from the west, from the river, towards you. That settles it. We have to go, you say now. Gaia nods, her face pale in the faint orange light that now filters through the window. She clutches Lucius tightly. He has stopped crying and is staring, wide-eyed at the terrifying glow. As you open the door to your apartment, you are met with a scene of chaos. The stairwell is full of your neighbors, all with the same look of panic on their faces. An old man is struggling with a heavy chest. A mother is trying to herd 3 crying children. It's a desperate, terrified exodus. This moment touches on an obscure, tragic detail of Roman fires. Archaeologists have found the remains of people in the ruins of burned-out buildings. often huddled in corners, clutching their valuables. They died not only from the flames, but from the smoke, or from being trapped in a stampede on the narrow, crowded stairs. The choice to flee was not always a guarantee of survival. Historians debate whether the vigils were an effective firefighting force or merely a token gesture. From your vantage point on a crumbling staircase, watching your neighbors fight their way to safety, you're leaning towards the latter. Your safe, familiar apartment building has transformed in an instant into a deadly trap. Your only thought is to get your family out, away from the roaring beast that is eating your neighborhood. You push your way into the stream of fleeing people on the stairs, holding Gaia's hand tightly, your other arm protectively around her and Lucius. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of fear. The descent is a nightmare. It's dark, crowded, and slick with something you don't want to identify. Someone stumbles ahead of you and you help them up, a chain reaction of falling bodies narrowly averted. The small kindnesses of neighborly life are forgotten, replaced by the primal instinct to survive. You finally burst out of the building's main door and into the street. The scene is apocalyptic. The fire is closer than you thought, a towering wall of flame just a street away, greedily leaping from one rooftop to another. Sparks and burning embers rain down like deadly snow. The heat is intense, even from this distance. The noise is a deafening roar, punctuated by the splintering crash of collapsing structures. The street is a river of panicked humanity, all flowing in one direction, away from the fire. People are carrying whatever they could grab: a sack of clothes, a piece of furniture, a caged bird. A man runs past you, his face a mask of terror, his hair singed. You see a detachment of vigils trying to push through the crowd, shouting orders that are lost in the din. They look hopelessly outnumbered. You pull Gaia and Lucius into the relative shelter of a stone archway, trying to get your bearings. The Forum, you shout over the noise. We have to get to open ground. The Forum, with its wide open plazas and massive stone temples, is one of the safest places to be during a fire. It is a long way from here, a desperate trek through a city that has descended into chaos. You start moving again, fighting your way through the terrified mob. You keep your eyes fixed on Gaia and Lucius, your one point of certainty in this maelstrom. This is the ultimate nightmare of the Roman urbanite, the violent destruction of the world you know. The major historical fact is that the Great Fire of 64 AD under Emperor Nero burned for 6 days and destroyed 2/3 of the city. While this fire is smaller, for you, in this moment, it is the entire world burning. The cause is irrelevant: an overturned lamp, a stray spark from a baker's oven, an act of arson. The result is always the same. Ruin. As you pass the corner where your bakery stands, you force yourself to look. By some miracle, the flames have not yet reached it. The street is full of debris, and a squad of vigils is frantically dousing the roof of the building next to yours with buckets of water. But your shop, your home, still stands. You see your donkey, Sylvanus, tied to the front door, braying in terror. Marcus is there, his face black with soot, throwing buckets of water onto the wooden shutters with a desperate energy. He has stayed. The foolish, brave boy has stayed to defend your livelihood for a heartbeat. You are tempted to run to him, to join the fight. But then you feel the small hand of your son clutching your tunic, and you know you cannot. Your duty is here. Your most precious valuables are not in the shop. They are with you. You keep moving. As you turn a corner, you nearly trip over a small, ornate box lying in the street, its contents spilled out. It's a set of tesserae, small cubes of ivory or bone used for playing games of chance. This small, obscure artifact, dropped by a fleeing gambler, seems like a perfect symbol for the moment. Life in this city has always been a gamble. Tonight, it seems everyone's luck has run out. Historians aren't sure if the city provided any formal aid or shelter for the thousands displaced by these frequent fires. Most likely, they were left to fend for themselves, to find refuge with relatives, or to sleep in the open porticos of temples. Tonight, you are one of them. You are a refugee in your own city, your future as uncertain as the direction of the wind. Hours have passed. You have made it to the edge of the Roman Forum. You are not alone. Thousands of people are here, a vast, huddled crowd of the displaced and the terrified. The open space, usually bustling with lawyers, merchants, and senators, has become a makeshift refugee camp. Families are clustered together, wrapped in whatever blankets or cloaks they manage to save. The air is cold now, the initial heat of the fire replaced by the damp chill of the coming dawn. The fire still rages in the distance, but from here it looks less like an immediate threat and more like a wound on the horizon, a pulsing orange glow against a sky that is slowly beginning to lighten in the east. The roar has subsided to a distant, angry murmur. The worst, it seems, is over, but the aftermath has just begun. You found a spot for your family in the lee of the great Basilica Julia, its marble columns stark and white in the strange twilight. Gaia has Lucius wrapped in her cloak, and he has finally fallen into an exhausted, fretful sleep. You sit on the cold stone steps, watching the scene, feeling a hollowness you have never known before. You are homeless. You are jobless. The coins in Gaia's purse are all you have in the world. A group of officials from the city prefect's office moves through the crowd, their faces grim. They are assessing the damage, trying to maintain some semblance of order. The major historical fact of this moment is the state's response. A large fire was a political crisis. An emperor's popularity could rise or fall based on how he handled the aftermath. A good emperor would be seen to organize relief, to provide food and temporary shelter, and to promise to rebuild. A bad emperor would be accused of profiting from the misery or, in Nero's case, of starting the fire himself. The fate of your neighborhood now rests in the hands of these bureaucrats and the unseen emperor they serve. Nearby, a woman is weeping. Quietly, she keeps repeating a name over and over. Her husband, she tells a neighbor, went back into their building to save their marriage chest. He never came out. Her private grief is a small, sharp note in the vast symphony of loss that surrounds you. You look at your own hands. They are soft for the first time in years, cleansed of their permanent dusting of flour by the soot and grime of the fire. They feel like a stranger's hands. Who are you if you are not a baker? What is your purpose if not to feed the city? Your identity was tied to your shop, to your oven, to the steady rhythm of your work. All of that is gone, or may as well be. You think of the strange order from the cloaked man, the fish cake for the secret dinner party. It seems absurd now. A detail from another life, a life where you worried about the quality of garum and not about whether your home would still be standing in the morning. That life was only yesterday, an obscure but poignant cultural practice comes to mind. When a Roman general celebrated a triumph, a grand parade through the city to celebrate a major military victory, a slave would stand behind him in his chariot, holding a golden crown above his head and whispering in his ear, "Memento mori," Remember, you are mortal. It was a reminder that even at the peak of glory, death and fortune's reversal are always near. You have never been a triumphant general, but you feel you have just learned this lesson in the most brutal way possible. Yesterday you were a master of your trade, a man of property. Today you are a beggar sleeping on the steps of a temple. You don't know what happened to Marcus or Sylvanus. You pray they are safe, that the boy's foolish bravery did not get him killed. You don't know if your bakery, your home, survived. And even if it did, what of the neighborhood around it? Who will be left to buy your bread? Historians can map the fire's path of destruction, but they can never map the geography of despair it left in its wake. All you can do is wait for the sun to rise, to reveal the full extent of the devastation, and to show you what, if anything, is left of your world. Dawn arrives, not with a burst of golden light, but as a slow, grey revealing. The sun struggles to pierce the thick pall of smoke that hangs over the city like a shroud. The new light exposes the scene in the forum in all its miserable detail. The exhausted, soot-stained faces, the huddled families, the lost and bewildered expressions. It is a city waking up to a massive, collective trauma. Word begins to filter through the crowd, carried by couriers and criers. The fire has been contained. It burned through 4 entire blocks, from the Vicus, Tuscus, almost to the riverbank. Hundreds of insulae are gone. Thousands are homeless. The official death toll is still unknown, but it is expected to be high. Your neighborhood, your street. It was at the very edge of the devastation. There is a chance, a slim, desperate chance. I have to go back, you tell Gaia. I have to see. She nods, her eyes full of a weary understanding. Be careful, she says. We will wait for you here. You kiss her and your sleeping son, and you begin the long walk back. The journey is a reversal of last night's frantic flight. The streets are now crowded with people moving in the opposite direction, drawn by a morbid curiosity to see the destruction. The closer you get, the worse the devastation becomes. Whole streets have been reduced to smoking, blackened skeletons. The smell of wet, burned wood is overpowering. It is a landscape of ruin. You turn the final corner, your heart in your throat, and you see it. Your building is still standing. It is scorched, blackened and damaged, but it is standing. The insulae on either side are gone, reduced to smoldering piles of rubble. Your building survived because it was at the very end of the line where the vigils finally managed to create a firebreak. It is a miracle, an ugly, soot-covered, half-ruined miracle. And there, sitting on the front step, covered head to toe in black soot, is Marcus. His face is a mask of exhaustion, but when he sees you, he breaks into a wide, weary grin. Beside him, Sylvanus the donkey, also soot-stained but otherwise unharmed, gives a tired snort. You run to him, and you embrace the boy, thumping him on the back. Words fail you. He saved it. He and the firefighters, they saved your world. The shop is a mess. The front shutters are burned, and the interior is filled with smoke and water, but the oven is intact. The millstones are fine. The structure is sound. You have not lost everything. You have lost your neighborhood, your customers, your peace of mind. But the heart of your livelihood remains. The major historical fact that will shape your future is the process of rebuilding. After major fires, emperors often seized the opportunity to implement new urban planning codes. Streets were widened. Building height was restricted, and the use of fire-retardant materials like stone was mandated. Your ruined neighborhood will likely be rebuilt, but it will be different. It will be a long, slow, and expensive process. You look at Marcus, who is already starting to sweep out the water. You think about the bond between a master and an apprentice. In some cases, it was purely an economic arrangement, but often it was much more, a relationship akin to father and son. This boy, who you thought was lazy and distracted, has shown a loyalty and courage you never expected. You owe him a debt you can never truly repay. You know the coming weeks and months will be incredibly difficult. You will have to clean, to repair, to rebuild your customer base from a shattered community. But as you stand there in the ruins of your street, looking at your surviving shop, you feel a flicker of something you thought had been extinguished forever: hope. You have your family, you have your apprentice, you have your donkey, and you have your oven, the great, silent heart of your world, waiting to be woken up again. The city will need bread, and you are a baker. The day is over. A day of fire and fear, of loss and of a fragile, flickering hope. You can feel the bone-deep weariness, the immense weight of all that has happened. Now it is time to let it all go. Let the soot and the smoke and the terror drift away. Let the noise of the crowd in the forum fade into a distant murmur. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to see. The story is finished for tonight. Now there is only the quiet space of your own room, the comfort of your own bed. Feel the solid weight of it beneath you, a safe and steady anchor in the dark. Let your breathing slow down, becoming as deep and regular as the sleeping city. Each breath is a soft wave, washing away the remnants of the day, leaving only peace and stillness behind. Let your mind drift, unmoored from thought, floating on a quiet tide towards the shores of sleep. There is only rest now, only calm, only the gentle, silent darkness. Sleep well.